Hello, company, and welcome to Show People, the podcast that shines a spotlight on the UK performing arts industry and those dedicated to their craft, covering the latest news and issues, what to see and do, showcasing theatrical talent, and of course, always trying to inform, educate, and entertain. My name is Andrew Keates. I'm a director and your host. Today's guest is an actor and a recording artist. Not only does she have a Tony Award, but she's originated some of our most popular musical theatre roles, including Eponine in Les Misérables and Dinah in Starlight Express. She's also played roles in shows such as Children of Eden, Piaf, The Wild Party, Pippin, and so many others. She's even been on Eurovision. Please welcome Frances Ruffelle! Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm over the moon to finally have you on this. Coming up on today's show, I'll be covering the latest dramatic news. On the platform, we have a song from Triangle, a new musical by Curtis Moore, Thomas Miser and Joshua Scher, and I'll be interviewing Frances Ruffelle all about her life, career, and setting her some infamous Show People podcast challenges too. You're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates and Frances Ruffelle. Hello, mate. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that we've managed to make this work.
Yeah.
Because you're only here for 2 days.
Yes, because I live in New York now.
Which makes me a little bit sad.
Oh, no, don't be sad. I'm sure I'll come back for some shows or something to do here occasionally.
Do you find yourself more at home in New York now? Or when you came back on those, these very hot streets of London that we're currently in at the moment, do you feel like you're coming home still here? Yeah,
I do. I still say I say I'm coming home when I come to London, but then I say I'm going home when I go to New York. So, But when I worked there a long time ago, 30 years ago, I actually felt like New York was my other home all that time ago. So it always has been. But I do love New York a lot. And I knew when I was working there 30 years ago that I had to move there. But then I got pregnant when I was in New York. So yes. So the last part of singing in Les Misérables, I was carrying my daughter Eliza. Yeah. So I kind of felt like I needed to come home to family at that point. But the New Yorkers were so good to me. And I kind of felt like it was something I hadn't really finished, you know. So I waited till my children grew up and then flew back to New York.
You won't mind me saying, but I mean, you come from a really big, wonderful family. We were saying just before we came on air. So how many children have you got?
I've got 3 children and I've got 3 goddaughters as well that I'm really close to.
And of course, I mean, we'll talk about your wonderful mother when we delve into your life. But what are all your kids doing now? They're all grown up and now mum can kind of enjoy flying around New York and London and everything else that you want to do. Yeah.
It's my turn now.
Yeah.
My daughter Eliza is, people may know her as Eliza Doolittle. She's a pop singer, songwriter. And my son Nathaniel creates websites, but actually he's also a really talented singer, musician, artist. But he doesn't do that apart from for fun. Yeah. He's more sensible. And then Felix is a product designer and he's got a 3D printing company. Yeah.
And obviously your wonderful mum founded and still runs the Sylvia Young Theatre School. I just love the idea of you guys at Christmas and the amount of, like singing and dance. Like I just imagine this sort of bohemian, wonderful family. That you are.
Well, actually it's much more bohemian than you think because like a couple of years ago, it wasn't just my mum and dad and my children, but it was also my stepchildren from my marriage to John Caird. Yeah. And his ex-wife and we all get together. It's crazy. So there's like nine kids. They're all grown up now. Yeah. I did the cooking with John. Me and John did the cooking. We divorced like 20 years or more before that, Yeah. It's so lovely. We are a crazy, strange family.
But as a family, you have just done so much. And you have all influenced the music industry, the theatre industry, the education, like you mentioning Eliza. I was reading about her today. I didn't realise she had a platinum-selling album.
I think it was double, whatever that means.
I'm you know, and no disrespect to everybody else. Like, it is nice. I'm not a big fan of kids. I've got to be honest with you. But quite often you do get mums come up to me and show me this, this picture that their kids painted on the fridge, and I'm like, can't care. But you get to say, oh, my daughter, double platinum album. Not bad.
Well, I'm proud of all my children.
Yeah. When are your dates at Zidell? When is your one-woman show going to be there?
And the 7th of September, that's a Friday night. Yeah.
And there are 2 dates?
There was a 7:00 show, but it sold out, so they added 9:15.
Fantastic.
Yeah, which is nice. But that's 2 shows in one night, which is, I haven't done that before.
You might need a gin or 2 after. And obviously, because we now have listeners all over the world.
Yeah.
And you've got your residency at the Green Room Club, am I right in saying?
Yeah, the Green Room 42 it's called, and that's in New York at the Yotel.
Okay.
Yeah, I do it every month. And actually, when I was saying that I don't do it on tour, I did actually also perform at the Kennedy Center, the same show, which is amazing, in Washington, D.C. But also we are actually looking for other dates for California, and there are other dates, but we haven't got them confirmed yet.
Well, if you check the show notes, folks, you'll find Francis's website. So again, any dates, I'm sure they'll be posted there.
And also on
Twitter.
Spotify. They have all my show dates on Spotify as well,
that's amazing.
Which is really amazing. Yeah, I just learnt that recently.
How do they do that? I just thought it was just little MP3s you download.
Yeah, no. Basically, if you're an artist, you can go on there and put your show dates on.
Well, I didn't realise this until the other day. This shows how brilliant a producer I am. I went on Spotify. The Show People podcast is on Spotify.
Wow.
Don't know how that happened.
How did it happen?
I mean, it's probably some button that I pressed and just not realised. But well done, Spotify.
I love Spotify, actually. I know that, us artists, we don't earn money now from our records and things, but I never really did it for that reason anyway.
No.
And I quite like the fact that more people can actually afford to listen to the music. And I think we're reaching more people anyway this way.
What do you really want to do when you do feel a bit more settled?
In New York? You mean with my work? Or
well, I don't mind. What's next for Francis Ruffelle, I suppose?
Well, what I'm doing in New York is quite like late in life. It's like a new challenge because although, yes, I did have a lovely success there, it's like starting again in a way. When I first got to New York, I literally cried myself to sleep, lonely.
Oh.
And I know. Oh.
Wait a second, I'll give you a little.
But it was something I knew I had to do. I just knew it took me 30 years to move back there, but I knew I had to.
Yeah.
And people are so lovely to me there. And, because I won the Tony as well, I didn't mean to show off about that. Sorry for mentioning it.
And also listeners, the first thing when I came, Francis has many wonderful, wonderful properties, and I'm in one of Francis's beautiful, beautiful flats. The first thing I said is, "Where's the Tony?" And what did you say to me?
Well, I broke it on the first day I got it.
So yeah.
Yeah, but because of that, actually, it does mean quite a lot in New York.
Yeah.
And people that are into the theatre. I mean, basically, if you think about the large America, USA, North America, think about that huge country, and anyone that's into like West End, Broadway type shows, they all live in New York. They're all there. The best of the talent as well from all over North America is in New York, but also people that are there are really interested in it. So a lot of people know who won, who was nominated for every Tony Award going, for every year. So people don't forget. And
it's a national event, and the Tonys are a national event.
Yeah,
No disrespect to the Oliviers, none whatsoever, but that's sort of a late night ITV showing that perhaps some of the arty people might watch.
Yeah.
But the Tonys, it's like the whole country seems to be tuning in to watch.
And it used to be worldwide.
Did it?
It's not anymore. Yeah, it used to be.
Back in your day.
Back in my day. I think it might have been the last year. Yeah.
And also musical theatre performers, and I know there's a debate now, do we say musical theatre performers, do we say musical theatre actors, do we say just actors? But just for the sake of people who work in musical theatre, there does seem to be a greater respect where it is not unusual, for example, for Bernadette Peters to turn up on a television series, a movie, and a stage show. Whereas over here, I don't think we're as generous to musical theatre artists.
It is more difficult here for sure. But yeah, in New York, and there's lots of TV and film in New York now as well. Yeah. So yeah, it's great for that. And also my boyfriend Craig Bierko, he does, theatre and he does film and TV. Yeah. And he lives in New York. So it's great. It's great. There's more opportunity. But more than anything, I just think, I don't even know, like, it wasn't really that I went for more opportunity. I just knew I had to do it. It was a little thing sort of growing in me that I had to explore that. And the crying myself to sleep every night was pretty hideous, actually. Yeah. But Michael John LaChiusa, who's become a friend of mine, he wrote The Wild Party that I did in London. He just said to me, just be creative every day. Just throw yourself into creativity. And I do that, but more than anything, I made sure I did it absolutely every day. And he was so right. And it just gives you a reason to live.
What were the kind of things that you were doing? Just because the last guest that I had on this, Josh Boyd Rochford, was talking about little creativity hacks, just to remind yourself that you can be creative every day, even if you're not necessarily in a rehearsal room every day.
Yeah. No, I write music, I write songs, I write lyrics, I write ideas, or it might be that I'm, just listening to books. I say listening to books because that's my new thing, because I'm a terrible reader. So I listen to books and just get sort of inspired.
Audible?
Yeah, on Audible.
Isn't it brilliant?
Yeah.
I shouldn't mention them because they don't sponsor the show, but there are so many books that I've gone, I've never been asked to read, all War and Peace, but actually quite happy to listen to David Suchet read it to me over the course of 20 nights.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I can't find the book I want, which is a little bit annoying. Then I have to buy it and read it.
Maybe I need to set up another podcast, just stories that Frances Ruffelle wants to have read to her.
Yes, please.
I'm Alistair Brammer, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates, a man with the hairdo of a children's TV presenter and the drinks cabinet of an elderly Broadway diva.
So let's start at the very beginning.
Yeah.
You were born in Redbridge, in the district of Ilford,
in London. A lot about me.
Doing my research, I'll have you know. And I have that your father was a phone company engineer and manager.
Yes. The post office, it used to be called back then.
Oh, was it?
Yes, before it was British Telecom. Yeah.
And is he still working with the same company to this day?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say.
He works for my mum.
Oh, does he?
My mum's his boss now.
Well, let's start with your wonderful mum. So Sylvia Young.
Yeah.
Where did her love of the performing arts come from, and how did that infiltrate your childhood?
Well, her grandmother used to take her to the opera, and then she did amateur dramatics at Mount View, actually.
Really?
Yeah. And so I used to go with her and stand and watch in the wings, which I was really disappointed to see they didn't actually have wings, flying wings. So that's how she sort of started. And then because our local school, we went to the local primary school, they wanted a swimming pool, and they were raising money to build a swimming pool. They asked her if she could put a show on with the school kids because they knew she was into amateur dramatics. So she did that, and then the kids kept knocking on our door saying, "Can we do some more shows, Sylvie?"
Yeah.
And there was nothing much to do in those days, no internet. You just played in the street, and it was quite like it wasn't a middle class area. It is now apparently, but it was quite a rundown
imagine having
area. So, kids didn't really have much. So she started doing drama classes for 10 pence a class just to cover the hall hire fee. It was people like Claire Burt, Nick Berry, Matthew Ryan. We were all in the same class together.
Yeah.
Paul de Freitas.
What have all they gone on to do, honestly? I love that Claire, I didn't know that Claire Burt was...
Yeah.
Claire started at Sylvia Young.
Yeah.
And do you go back now, knowing what the school is? Do you go back and teach or work with the students ever?
I should do, shouldn't I, really?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I remember my mum once said to me, would I like to run the school one day? And I said, no, I'd have a nervous breakdown. I couldn't do it.
Maybe you could be like an honorary headmistress or something. I quite like the idea.
I just give prizes or something.
So that love of performing arts, was that really from you being like a little dot? Was that there from the start?
Well, I was taken to the theatre a lot, you know, so because my mum and dad loved it. So I didn't really think about doing anything else. A little bit. I had a few moments of wanting to be a hairdresser. And then, and I didn't really think I'd be a singer. I thought I'd be an actress. Mm-hmm. I didn't really think I could sing. In fact,
really?
I've always had this little husky voice. And basically, I didn't get into the school choir. And everyone used to say my voice was like a foghorn. And I know. And then when I was younger as well, I auditioned for Annie, and I really wanted to get the job so badly, but I couldn't sing high enough. So after Annie, I started to teach myself how to sing sort of through my nose.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, that like chipmunky kind
sort of twangy nasal thing.
Yeah, and I kind of found a way to sort of hit high notes. But my voice isn't naturally that kind of high belt, you know, so I kind of did it in Les Mis. That was probably the last time. And then I know everyone is very nice about my recording and stuff, but when I listen to it, I just think I hear a chipmunk.
Who were your big heroes growing up as a little girl? Who were the people you used to listen to and watch?
Well, I was such a theatrical. Used to listen to like Judy Garland and Liza Minnelli. Yeah, I mean, really, all those sort of, and actually, really oddly, my mum was a collector of old time music hall.
Yeah,
and we used to have all the records. So I listened to like Kate Carney and Mari Lloyd, and I learned really all the sort of storytelling type of singing from them. Really?
I mean, I'm so glad you said that, because I wonder how many people would even think. Yeah. Because music hall has been so sort of, you know, people just think of it as the boy I love is up in the gallery. You know, they think it's that. And actually, there was extraordinary work that was going on.
Yeah, Kate Carney really taught me how to sort of put a cry in my voice, really, which is what I based Eponine on Kate Carney.
Did you?
Yeah.
I want to say that's a show people exclusive, but I bet you've said it before somewhere.
Yeah, I do talk about it. You know, because I love it. And nobody really knows who Kate Carney is. But you can, I think she might even be on Spotify.
Although I don't think she's going to be updating her notes, sadly. What were you doing to train yourself, as well as obviously being with your mum and Sylvia Young theatre school?
Well, actually, when I was 16, I did the narrator in Joseph.
I have this on the CV. And I was like, when did you do that?
Yeah, I did it on a tour. Yeah. I was the second female narrator in UK.
Yes, because it was always originally a bloke.
Jackie Marks was the first.
Was she? Yeah. Oh, you were then Fontaine, of course. Jackie Marks.
That's right.
You were impressed that I knew that. You thought I didn't know Jackie Marks was.
I went to school with Jackie as well.
Did you?
Yes, I knew her since I was 11.
She's gorgeous.
Yeah, she's great. So I did that, but I got fired.
No.
Yes, I did. I got fired by Bill Kenwright.
What for?
It was 12 shows a week, admittedly.
Yeah.
But after the 8th show, I started doing like my Rex Harrison performance and somehow got back again for Monday. But I just couldn't cope with it. And I knew I needed to take some singing lessons. So, and actually, while I was we had a week off, and on that week off, I auditioned for Starlight and got Starlight, the workshop of Starlight. So luckily, I got fired, so I was free to do Starlight.
So you're the first person ever to be delighted to be fired.
Yeah. And Bill Kenwright is quite delighted, because he said if he hadn't fired me, I wouldn't have got Starlight and I wouldn't have got Les Mis. So he's pretty happy about it.
I was going to say,
well.
have you spoken to him since to go, thanks for firing Uncle Bill?
He's always been lovely to me. So, and then I knew I had to take singing lessons. Yeah. I had to train, you know, so... then I did 8 shows a week with Starlight, and Les Mis never had any problems.
This is sort of like 16. You said 16 is when you did Joseph. Am I right in thinking?
Yeah.
16?
Yeah, when I was 17, I did the workshop for Starlight.
Something that I really want to know more about, Princess Louisa in The Sleeping Prince at the Haymarket.
So a Terence Rattigan play. It was at Chichester Festival Theatre, and they wanted to bring it into town. But I already had Starlight planned for, you know, the West End. Mm. So I said, I can't do it. I've got Starlight. And they went, well, when's that? And I said, you know, we start rehearsals in January. Well, you can do 6 weeks in the West End. Okay. No. So it must be one of the shortest contracts ever. They gave me a 6-week West End contract at the Haymarket, Theatre Royal Haymarket, which also in those days still had a call boy. Before they had tannoys, he used to run up and down the stairs and knock on your dressing room door and say, Miss Ruffelle, it's your call, or your 5-minute call.
No.
And he was skinny, this cool boy, because he was running up and down all these stairs all night.
And then, of course, then we do get onto that little show. I'm sure it's a couple of people saw it, Starlight Express. Yeah. I mean, let's start with the roller skates. Let's just start. Firstly, can you still roller skate?
I probably can. I can, but I was the worst roller skater in the whole show.
Really?
So, yeah. Actually, when I was doing Princess Louisa in The Sleeping Prince, I was always in that costume roller skating around Chichester Festival Theatre.
I mean, it must have physically been the most physically demanding job you've ever done, surely.
I guess so, but I was 18 and, I didn't really notice it that much.
I mean, what was the feeling when this, Andrew Lloyd Webber's written a show about trains and you're all on roller skates?
Yeah.
It just sounds so nuts now, doesn't it?
It does sound nuts, but it was such good fun. And the way that they did the theatre and all the tracks that went round into the audience, I mean, now I'm sure you wouldn't be allowed to do it. I'm sure health and safety would be involved. Yeah, it was so brilliant. And also I'd just seen Cats, and so there was Cats and now it was trains.
Yeah.
So all I wanted to do was be in a big Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. I couldn't believe I got the job. I remember telling my mum, I said, they think I can sing, Mum.
Oh, that's you're pulling all my heartstrings in this interview today. And there's, I suppose, and so who was in that particular company? Because I know there was.
Rachel. Yeah, who was Rusty, who was fantastic. Oh, Jeffrey Daniel from Shalimar.
Right.
He was Electra. Chrissy Wickham. Oh, Stephanie Lawrence.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, she played Pearl.
Yeah.
So, really talented company.
So then we go from Starlight Express, quite a well-known show, but no other show is better known than Les Misérables. And certainly of all the characters, you are, of course, synonymous with creating Eponine. And listeners would not be happy unless I spoke about it, even though I think there's lots of far more interesting things you've done. But not only would you be doing Les Misérables, but you would also meet a gentleman called John Caird, who you would get to know rather well too.
Because, when I was doing Starlight Express, Trevor Nunn directed that, and then Trevor said there's a role in a new show I'm doing called Les Misérables. I really want you to play this character, but you have to sing for the French writers and for the co-director, John Caird. So Friday night, 6:00, before I did my Starlight Express show, I sang for them a Piaf song, which Trevor asked me to do. And by 10:00 Monday morning, the role was mine. No. And I was lucky enough to be the first person cast. Quite a long time ahead, actually. So I got to work with the writers. They worked on, everything was written for my voice range. And of course, I was pushing myself way up, after my practice from the Annie. So then it was set in my register, which actually for a long time they found it quite hard to find people to play Eponine. But then everyone got to know the show so well and practice, growing up and everything. I
mean, what is it like to originate a role like that? I mean, it's funny you saying your heroes were people like Judy Garland, who originated Dorothy, and we all know Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and now and I know Red Slippers, and now there's you and your mop cap and On My Own. I mean, that must be, as an artist, that must be rather beautiful.
Well, I'm really lucky because I had Dinah as well in Starlight, and then obviously Les Mis. To have two straight back to back, new hit shows, that's very unusual.
Yes.
And and I think also I was so young. I just thought life was like that. I soon had to learn the hard way. Yeah. But it was a lovely time of my life. Very grateful to have that.
And just tell me what the development process of Les Misérables is like, because the overwhelming feeling that I've got, and from a mutual friend of ours who was in it, David Burt, for example, I stayed up very, very late telling anecdotes with David till the early hours. People always talk about the development of Les Misérables, and yet when it opened, it was 4.5 hours long? 4 hours?
Yeah, there was an incredible chase scene which was absolutely heartbreaking and gripping, where Jean Valjean climbs a big tower, and he has a little baby Cosette on his back. And it's making me go cold just thinking about it right now. It was incredible, and they decided to cut it because the show was too long. They had to cut it because it wasn't really moving the story along, and there was so much story to tell. So I mean, it'd be amazing. What a wonderful idea, actually, to put in all the things that were cut from Les Misérables and do the long version.
Just for like one special, like one night
No,
only.
not
Only
even one night. Yeah, I think there's so many fans for Les Mis. They could actually do it. And maybe you could do it in a 2-night, you buy 2 tickets.
Well, like everyone is doing now.
Yeah, exactly.
I audibly gasped as you noticed when you were telling that story, because you've just made something make sense. Because again, being the sort of theatre geek that I am, I have seen production photographs of that and always wondered, what the sod is Jean Valjean climbing for?
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure it may have even been on the old promotional pictures. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe.
But I've
it
always
was.
wondered, being like, what is that? And just assumed it was a setup of some description
Yeah,
for promo.
no.
But of course, it would have been from that chase.
Yeah. It was incredible. And also, it was a part of the set that never got used. I just think there were so many cuts as well, because they just, even from the Royal Shakespeare Company to West End, they tried to shave off bits here and there to make sure that, the band could get to the pub in time, really.
Yeah. and asking a tricky question. And I asked David Burt this, bless him, about the anniversary concerts.
Yes.
And I said to David, I was like, you originated Enjolras. He went, yeah. And I said, why didn't you get to do it in the anniversary? He went, they wanted someone cooler. And they wanted an American. And they offered me to be in the chorus.
Yeah.
And do you know what I told him? Fuck them. And I went, really? And he said, yeah. I originate that part. I'm not going to go and sit in the back. Was it? I mean, I know.
They asked me to be a whore.
Did you say no as well?
Yeah.
Good for you. I think good for you. Good for you. Because it's like, do you know what?
Yeah. It just felt odd. I just thought, I didn't mind that someone else is doing it. I got lucky enough to do it in London and Broadway. I'd had my fair share, but I just didn't really want to go back and do a whore. But weirdly enough...
You then do the film.
No, I did the film as, whore number 1. But the weird thing was also, Cameron one day, it was so bizarre, maybe about 10 years ago, he just rang me up and said, we're doing Les Mis at Windsor Castle in front of the Queen. Why don't you come? You just got to be there. But obviously you're not going to play the role because it was the main people from the show in the West End that are playing the roles.
Yeah.
But come along and be there. And I was like, so I found myself saying yes. And it was really bizarre. So I was just an ensemble member.
Surrounded by queens. There's the, but yeah, I mean, it is funny when you look back and you see just like phenomenal performers.
Yeah.
Just scrappily. Rosie Ash turns up randomly in the Phantom anniversary, just in sort of Regency garb. It's like, Rosie Ash can do better than that.
No, but you know what? Actually, good for them for turning up and doing it.
Sure.
For me, I just didn't really feel that I didn't think I was going to enjoy it, so I just didn't do it.
And then, I mean, it's one thing to obviously do Les Misérables, originate it, and obviously was a flop to begin with. It was panned by the critics pretty much, and Cameron just refused for it to be a flop, and lo and behold, it sat in the palace for years.
Because that was a time when you didn't get standing ovations, but we did.
Yeah.
So now you get a standing ovation for anything,
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean anything anymore. But back then, we didn't get standing ovations for Starlight or anything.
No.
But it was incredible. They rose to their feet every single performance.
And we then obviously go from West End, not only to Broadway, but also to winning the Tony.
Yeah.
To, I mean, as a young woman, that must have, you just must have been top of your game there.
It was incredible. Yeah. I wasn't expecting to go to New York, and then win a Tony. I wasn't even thinking. I didn't think about being up for an award. It hadn't occurred to me because I wasn't up for the Olivier in London, and that hadn't occurred to me either. You know, so it was odd when people were saying, "Oh, you're going to win a Tony. You're going to win a Tony." I was like, "Oh my God, that's that thing on the telly." Yeah. So it was great. I had a lovely time, and it's funny. Manhattan is small. I was recognised on the street all the time, which you don't really get usually for theatre. Certainly in London, you don't. But, it was a different time.
So the other thing I'm going to ask you about is turning down the role on Broadway.
I haven't turned down the role. Oh, you mean the other person? Yeah, that was my luck, yes. Anne-Marie Bobby got offered Eponine.
Yeah.
And took a different job. She took the lead in a musical called Smile, which I think lasted a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It was good for me. Obviously not so good for her. So they were literally in rehearsals and they were like, we're going to have to bring Frances. I had no idea that all this was going on, or all the negotiations with Equity. Nobody had mentioned it to me. Then on a Saturday afternoon, Cameron just gives me a call and says, darling, I'm taking you to New York Monday.
What, literally like 2 days.
Yeah,
pack
2
up your
days.
stuff.
Yeah.
That sounds so exciting.
Yeah,
like
of course.
At that age, it would be like...
I'd have done it for nothing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I almost did do it for nothing.
This is Bill Deemer, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for dramatic news. Today's top stories. Casting has been announced for the 2018 autumn tour of Willie Russell's musical Blood Brothers, which opens at the Churchill Theatre in Bromley in September. Olivier Award-nominated actress Lindsay Haitley will star as Mrs. Johnston. The Bill Kenwright production has been touring across the country throughout 2018 and now continues to Bromley, St Helens, Preston, Swansea, Bridlington, Shrewsbury, Crawley, Stoke, Wimbledon, Brighton, Chesterfield, Hamilton and Oxford. Good grief, I just sounded like Waterloo then, didn't I? Anyway. The National Theatre has announced its production of Network, starring Bryan Cranston, will transfer to Broadway in November. Lee Hall's adaptation of the Academy Award-winning film by Paddy Chayefsky follows Howard Beale, a news anchor who decides his next broadcast will be his last. The Broadway transfer will run at the Court Theatre from the 10th of November for a limited 18-week run. Further casting is to be announced. Bat Out of Hell has announced 5 sing-along performances where audiences will be encouraged to sing along with the cast to Jim Steinman's songs. The performances take place on the 28th of August, 25th of September, 31st of October, 27th of November and 31st of December. While 2 costume sing-along shows will take place on Halloween on the 31st of October and New Year's Eve on the 31st of December. The best-dressed audience member on each of these nights will go home with a Bat Out of Hell poster signed by Meatloaf himself. And finally, Arion Productions is delighted to announce actor Annette Badland as a new patron. Annette is an award-winning actress nominated for an Olivier for her role Sadie in The Rise and Fall of Little Voice. She is also known for her roles in EastEnders, Doctor Who, Outlander, Bergerac and Cutting It. Theatre work includes Sir Peter Hall's Company, the RSC, the National Theatre, Royal Court, Cheek by Jowl and the Almeida. Also the Royal Exchange Manchester, where she won critical acclaim as Madame Arcati in Blithe Spirit. Annette joins Arion's other patrons, composer Howard Goodall, CBE, and playwright Martin Sherman. Why not pop back to episode 3 of the Show People podcast, where you can listen to her remarkable story when we interviewed her. Thank you so much for joining us, Annette. We're really, really delighted to have you. Have you got a news story that you'd like us to know about? Please email info@arion-productions.com.
Hello, this is Kim Ismay, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates, and I hope you're having a wickedly interesting time.
A theatre that people might not necessarily associate with you, Frances. The Royal Court.
Oh, yes.
You played Delilah in a play called Apples, directed by Simon Curtis.
Yes. Film director.
I don't know, being the Royal Court and knowing how many new plays they do, just give me a little insight into what Apples was like and how you went from on the barricade to the Royal Court.
Well, how did I get it? Oh, I know. Ian Dury wrote it and starred in it, and he was with Warner Brothers Music, and he needed someone with a good voice that could act, and basically the people at Warner Brothers suggested me.
Really?
Seeing Les Mis and offering me record deals and things. So I actually did the album with him first and then did the play. Yeah.
So, of course, not only were you doing a play at the Royal Court, but you also found yourself pregnant, which is a recurring thing.
Yes. And I have that thing where you get really sick.
Really?
So I literally had to leave the show, which is awful. And I loved Ian Dury so much, and I felt so devastated that I was letting him down. But I had to leave. I went down to 6 stone, ended up in hospital.
Jeez.
So yeah, my pregnancies and me don't agree.
and I should ask, because for some reason people, men don't seem to talk about the fact that women get pregnant. Like even now, women are still battling to be able to do their job and be mothers and to be given the support that they need. How did you manage at a time where certainly people weren't as conscientious as they are now with women in the theatre and their children?
I didn't really manage that well, to be honest. I found having children very difficult to and working at the same time. I listened to lovely Anna Jane Casey, and she sounds like a superwoman, supermum. Yeah, because I literally found it hard. But then again, I did end up having 3 children. So, and at one point, 3 children in 3 different schools. So it was really difficult. And then, you know, telling all the stories at night, and when you need to save your voice because you've got to sing, and you know, it's not really conducive to have children and be in musical theatre.
Yeah.
Or indeed any job, really.
And I suppose, I mean, ordinarily, most people would just say, "Oh, go and stay with grandma," but grandma's looking after everyone else's kids.
Yes, although she was a great grandma, and she did definitely help out.
I don't doubt.
Yeah, and you know, and obviously, if I was working, I had to have nannies and things.
Yeah.
But you've still got, you're still mum. You're still doing all the mummy things, and you know, and that's why I'm lucky I had the children so young, because now I'm literally, you know, got like a brand new life.
Yeah. Obviously, working with Andrew Lloyd Webber from Starlight Express,
Yeah.
You were one of the lucky hand-picked few to present a new musical, or the pitching process for Whistle Down the Wind, playing Candy.
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Was that in his sort of little church that he's got?
Yeah, it's so gorgeous there.
I really want to see it.
Oh, it's lovely. Yeah, I played Candy. That was quite fun, actually. I literally had a 7-week-old baby at that point, and I was still breastfeeding.
In rehearsal?
Yeah.
But I think that's okay. Like, I'm
I looked very voluptuous.
Yeah. Surprised you didn't get Christine in Phantom then. And you obviously did the same thing for Sunset Boulevard.
Yes, I played. What did I play?
Betty. You played Betty.
Betty, that's it.
Betty
Shaefer. Betty Shaefer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you did Sydmonton. You did Annabelle in Lucky Stiff.
I love that show.
At the Bridewell for Stephen Dexter.
Oh, that was so funny. I worked with Tracy Bennett. That was the first time I worked with Tracy Bennett, and that was like, for me, a massive thing to learn, because she's so brilliant at comedy. And I just learned so much from Tracy.
She's a tour de force, isn't she?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I didn't know this about you. This one. I mean, I knew some of the credits, but I didn't know you had done this.
What is it?
Roxie Hart in Chicago.
Oh yeah, I did it for over a year.
Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know. I mean, I know, Jesus,
Yeah.
I know you can dance. And that's the other thing that I think people are always surprised.
No one knows I can dance.
Because like, when I saw the Wild Party later on, it was like, Jesus, like, girl,
Yeah.
you can dance.
Yeah.
Like, so but again, I guess no formal dance training. And yet
No, I
going into
did.
Chicago.
When I was a child, I did ballet and tap and jazz, and I actually did want to be a dancer.
Did you?
And I auditioned for a group called Legs & Co. when I was 15 years old for Top of the Pops. And I didn't get it, actually, but she offered me to be a cheerleader. That was my first ever job, being a cheerleader when I was 16 on Top of the Pops.
And how old are we now, kind of from me thinking of the sort of teenage Frances Ruffelle, you know, doing bits and pieces, to now the Frances Ruffelle doing Chicago at the Adelphi, it would have been at?
I did the Adelphi and also Cambridge.
Cambridge.
Yeah.
Who else was in your company with you?
Oh, loads of different people. Tiffany Graves did a lot of, we've worked together 3 times now. She did a lot of Velma with me.
Yeah.
We had Marta Pello. Oh, you know, when we first started, it was amazing. We had Anita Dobson, Kevin Richards from the Backstreet Boys.
Of which I know very little about, but yes.
Paul Baker playing Amos.
What is it about Chicago that's so enduring? What is it about that production that still makes people buy tickets today?
Yeah, well, it's so brilliantly written. The script works, and actually it works no matter how talented you are or not. But, you know, I just know that, you know, as long as you're truthful to the script, it's there for you.
I didn't realise that all of the Kim tracks for Miss Saigon were set down by you.
Yeah, I sang all of them, yeah. And Laura Branigan, she played the wife, and David Essex played the engineer.
David Essex?
Yes, yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And is that true? So yes, you did the original, well, the development of Sunset Boulevard, the development of Whistle Down the Wind, the development of Miss Saigon, and the development of Les Misérables in some respect.
Yeah.
I mean, producers...
And Starlight.
Is there not...
Yes.
People have said there's no formula to have a hit musical. It seems to be having you in it, Frances.
That's a nice thing to say.
Hello, my dears. You have the ineffable and probably undeserved pleasure of listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates. This is Stephen Fry wishing you a wonderful listen. Thank you.
Well, it's time for the Show People podcast platform, the part of the show where we like to give some airtime to showcase new writing. Now, today's work is actually recommended by Francis. Tell me a little bit about these writers that you've been hanging out with recently.
I literally just been hanging out with them as friends, but then really weirdly enough, we were all in Chicago at the same time and at the university, Northwestern University. And they happened to be doing some of their pieces there, the students. Mm-hmm. So I popped in and had a listen, and I really like their work.
I really do.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that the boys are listening, because I got a lovely email from them saying, how pleased they were that they were going to be on the show. So, boys, if you are listening, we love your work. Can we get some stuff? UK producers.
Actually,
listen to this.
There is talk of doing this particular show in London. Yeah, there is. But I'm not sure how far they've got down the road with
all I'm saying, I might be available, and I'm much cheaper than the competitors are. I'm certainly cheaper than John Caird. Let's put it that way. Well, this is Triangle. It's an original musical mystery featuring two love stories set in the same New York City building, but 100 years apart, that begin to weave together across the century. It's a romantic and timely story about learning to embrace love in the face of a world that feels more dangerous and chaotic every day. The show had its world premiere at the Theatre Works Silicon Valley and went on to win 6 Theatre Bay Area awards, including Outstanding World Premiere Musical. The inspiration for the piece was the discovery that NYU's Brown Science Building was the site of the infamous Triangle Shirtwaist Company fire of 1911, and how the building looks and feels much the same 100 years later, still filled with young strivers, immigrants from all over the world, trying to make their lives better. And they wanted to look at the way people deal with sudden tragedy so pervasive in our world of terror attacks and fear-mongering. How do we love when it can be taken away so quickly, and yet how we must? The song we're about to hear is the first big musical sequence in the show, introducing the lead character in the present, Brian. He's a brilliant yet awkward chemistry grad student who works on the same floor where the fire occurred. As the play opens, Brian is stuck in the middle of a huge rally for the 100th anniversary of the fire in front of the building. When he attempts to get away to the safe haven of his 9th floor lab, he runs into a mysterious and attractive stranger. Here's 9 Floors Up, performed by Adam Halpin from Triangle, a new musical.
How does a guy like me end up in the middle of all this madness? New York is great, but great gets old. A quiet guy like me should find a more relaxing address, like East Detroit. It's calm but cold. The city never sleeps. Well, I don't sleep much either. Try to take a breather, then lie awake. The city blares and beeps, coming in from all directions. How many coffees and connections can you take? Take me up 9 floors up to my office down the hall. There I found 5 doors down, a place I'm safe above it all. Let the world keep turning, let it fight by, racing around below. I'll be there learning, 9 floors up and 5 doors down. Leave the crowds behind me, let the tide rise. I've got a place to go where they won't find me. 9 floors up and 5 doors down. How does a guy like that turn up and suddenly I'm in 1st grade? Open my mouth and dumb drops out. I meet a guy like that and feel like he's giving me the worst grade. Why should I care? What's that about? I walk the walk, trying to be normal. I come off semi-formal before too long. It's like I talk and talk, but I'm in a foreign city and my accent's really shitty. I sound all wrong. Get me out, get me up to my work the way I planned. There I know how things go in a world I love and understand. Make it all stop turning, today I might get my job, my life. I won't need to leave again. And the world keeps turning, let it fly by. I'm better off alone, that's what I'm learning. 9 floors up and 5 doors down. Leave the world behind me. Why would I cry? I'm gonna build my own. That's where you'll find me. 9 floors up and 5 doors down. 9 floors up and 5 doors down. 9 floors up and 5 doors down.
For more information about Triangle, please visit trickybox.com. Are you a writer, composer, or artist who creates original work? Well, I want to hear from you. Please send any recordings that you have with full permission to play on the show, along with some information about yourself, your work, and context of the song to info@arian-productions.com, as we're passionate about supporting new work and sharing it with our loyal listeners.
Hello, this is Steve First, and you are listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates. A man so marvellous, he's putting bums on seats. Whether it be parakeets eating halal meats or premier athletes submitting VAT receipts. It's the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates.
I adore the music of Bill Finn or William Finn, and you did make me a song, music of William Finn at the New Players.
Yes.
But you also did, and this is a show that I don't think anybody's going to know apart from you and I, Mathilde.
Oh, yes, I did.
Directed by the one and only Simon Callow.
I know, yeah.
So tell our listeners what
It was
Mathilde
a
is.
concert version, though,
Okay.
and it was at the Edinburgh Festival. The music was so difficult. I'd never performed such difficult music in my life. Such brilliant music written by Conor Mitchell, and it was like opera. And I actually did sing higher than I normally sing. But it was really a fantastic time. I loved it.
Conor Mitchell, a mutual friend of ours, he has to be one of the most exciting Irish composers that we have.
Yeah.
He was telling me that when commercial producers have been like, can you put more of a melody in? He'll always respond with, I'm atonal, like just deal with it. He also did, was it 10 Plagues? I think he also wrote, which was at the Royal Court. You also did something which I really don't know anything about.
I bet you it's the bedroom one.
Yeah, Songs from a Hotel Bedroom.
I love that show.
What is it?
I'd love to do it again. Kate Flatt, who did the movement in Les Misérables. Believe it or not, there is movement in Les Mis because, she showed us how to distort our bodies as the whores, and be grotesque. She just had an idea to do a show using all Kurt Weill music with me playing Angelique, a French cabaret singer.
Angelique Picard, I believe.
Oh, yes, that's right. And it was like just a two-hander, me and the lover, who was a songwriter, and it's our, life through letters and different hotel rooms. Oh. And then we had these two beautiful alter egos that dance the tango. It's a stunning, stunning show. And she directs like no one else I've ever worked with. She directs through breath. And everything is about, because she comes from movement, but it's about the breath you take at that moment. Literally, there were moments where I could act with my back because it was all about the breathing. It was incredible and beautiful show. And we did a tour, and then we did the Royal Opera House, the Limbury Theatre at the Royal Opera House. Blimey. And it was completely sold out. Everything was sold out. And I just don't understand why we haven't done it again or recorded it.
Well, maybe it just takes, a very good podcast just to remind people that it's there to see if it can be produced again. I'd never heard of it. And was it all sort of devised with you guys?
We did a workshop first of all, and the piece was written for me. Obviously, Kurt Weill didn't write the songs for me, but they found very obscure Kurt Weill songs and some that had never been heard before, and it was done in the real original sort of Kurt Weill style, which I had to learn. I had to really work at. And my character, as a person in life, she had a soprano voice, which I really don't have, but I somehow managed to sort of kind of almost pretend.
Yeah.
And then when Angelique performed as the cabaret singer, she had this dark jazz voice. So I had two different voices in the show, which was really difficult, but
which is
really
so much like life.
challenging.
So much like in life, our sort of our public persona versus our personal persona.
Yeah.
That's. Oh, I wish I could.
I'd love to do it again. I really would love to do it again.
Right, investors, angels, and producers out there.
Maybe you should do it in New York. I've just thought about that. That would be
Watch this
fun.
space. I'll have you back on and you can tell me. Well, you gave me this great idea on the last podcast.
Yeah.
Now, a show that I did see, which is really rather lovely, you played for Strada in Pippin.
Oh, yes.
Of course, at the
that was
Menier.
fun. Yes, I played her like a footballer's wife.
Yeah. well, no, it was more nuanced than just that. Well, that I can remember. We are still going back a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's relatively speaking, it's still quite early days in the Menier's history, I suppose. Then, because obviously I know that it's.
Yeah, I guess so. But we still knew that the Menier was, it was a place that people wanted to work at. So, yeah.
I mean, watching an interview with you recently, you rather brilliantly defined what the word cabaret means, which obviously means in a small
space,
small room.
It means small room, yeah.
And what's so wonderful about your work is, yes, I know there are the massive theatres that you've played, either here, America, or elsewhere, but you seem to have this love and this passion for the small space where there's nowhere to hide, whether that's the Menier Theatre to your one-woman show. Yeah. What is it about these small spaces that attracts you? I mean, it's
easy
terrifying.
to fill. I don't know, really. Do you know what happened? When I first did my first one-woman show, it was called Beneath the Dress. That was it was pretty much 10 years ago, I think. I did it at Madame Jojo's. And I literally made myself do it because I didn't have any work. It was that simple. Oh my God, I have nothing in the diary and I will get depressed if I don't do something. Yeah. So I booked 5 dates at Madame Jojo's and I had a deadline and had to get the show together. And then I was working with Matt Ryan trying to sort of devise the show. And he was writing these speeches that would talk about songs and stuff. And then I realized I'm just useless at talking to the audience and just being myself. And I realized I just didn't want to do that. So Beneath the Dress became really a song cycle. But Matt was so clever with songs, but we together devised it into a story. So it had a journey of a young girl who wanted to be a movie star and what happened to her, and she hit, drugs, alcohol, had a car crash, and then, at the end of the story, she becomes an older woman who is content with her life, all my stories end like that, content with my life.
And that does explain why so many of your one-woman shows, you do have these alter egos now. Do you find that liberating as an artist?
Yeah, I find it really liberating. The last one I've done, which is my favorite at the moment, was inspired by a breakup I had. And so, although it's not really about him or me, really, it kind of is. It's definitely inspired by that, and it's fun. It's dark, but it's also fun. And it's about heartbreak, but it's also about empowerment as well, and moving to New York and having a new life and starting afresh. But actually, it's really funny. It's about him, me, our dog, his new girlfriend, a few exes along the way. And but then also each character I turn into, they have a nickname, and then each person has a nickname of a drink. And it would be their drink. Yeah. So there's coffee, there's Shirley Temple. Mr. Shirley Temple is played by Craig, my boyfriend now, who actually did once order a Shirley Temple. That was it.
What is in a Shirley Temple?
Shirley Temple is grenadine and lemonade. It's like a girly sort of with a cherry in it.
Oh, is it?
It's a very sweet little, drink. And then I have like Mr. Bourbon and, and we have all these different drinks, and my sort of final sort of empowerment moment is when I order myself a vodka lime and soda, nice good low calorie clear drink. But so it's fun. It's fun, the show, but it's also, it is based on my life. And a lot of people do say, oh my God, that is so brave of you. You are so brave. But I don't feel brave. I feel empowered.
It's almost like you have the mask of the character in some respect.
Yeah.
That reveals so much more.
Yeah.
I mean, and what's interesting, again, looking through the body of your work, and indeed later work that you would go on to do as well, women of a darker side, women of the night, women of the sexuality and depression, and none more so than the role you would go on to do at Leicester Curve, which is obviously
Piaf.
What I still think is one of my favourite plays ever written. And what bloody brilliant casting to was Piaf. I'm sort of annoyed I didn't think of it. I read it and I went, that's a really good idea.
Yeah. So, Trevor thought of that first.
Oh, did he?
Because he based Eponine character on the Little Sparrow, like a Piaf character.
Yeah.
And, had asked me to sing a Piaf song. So, yeah.
And I was obviously working with Paul Kerrison at Leicester Curve. What is it about Edith Piaf? Like, most, for those who don't know who she is, most people know her as the Non je ne regrette rien, and you see the cod. So a lot of people send her up, of course, don't they, with her singing that.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it about Edith? What did you find playing Edith Piaf?
Well, first of all, I felt like I'd been in a car crash every single night when I played that role. And her life was a crash of a life, everything that could go wrong went wrong, and from her beginning to the end, and she died. She was only 47 when she died.
Yeah.
But what I loved about the role is, and the way that Pam Gems wrote it, is the humour. It's like she really took the piss out of herself. She didn't give a damn, and she used men for sex. They didn't use her.
Yeah.
She loved sex, she loved making people laugh, and she loved shocking people.
Yeah.
And it's just a character that really has absolutely everything in it. And it's a difficult one, because sometimes she's so awful and so rude, you could really hate her, but then she sends herself up and make everybody laugh, and then you'll love her again.
What did you do in regards to, because obviously there is that sort of iconic Piaf sounding wobble, but obviously you've also got to keep your voice safe, and you have your own sound. How did you merge the two?
Well, I didn't really merge it because Paul was very clear that I could be myself, and I wasn't going to be an impersonator.
Good.
There were elements of her, like some movements occasionally brought in, but I had to be myself, and it was written for a Cockney girl, so it was kind of written for me anyway, really. I did actually see the original play with Jane Lepeter when I was still at school, and I never forgot it. And to be able to play that role was just like a dream come true to actually finally get to play it. And also like the wobble that you're talking about, the French thing, that they roll their R's in the back of the throat. Well, I haven't actually managed to get that. I never really quite managed to. Maybe I should work on it more.
This is Kumiko Mendel, Artistic Director of Yellow Earth Theatre. You are listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates.
You played Bella in the A to Z of Mrs. P at Southwark Playhouse, which it wouldn't surprise me if listeners all over the world are going, what on earth is the A to Z of Mrs. P?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Frances Ruffelle, what is the A to Z of Mrs. P?
It's the story of the woman who did actually pace London until she created the A to Z that we don't use anymore, of course.
No.
Sadly.
Yeah. Google Maps.
So it's about her, but I didn't play her. I played her mum, although I didn't play her mum from the start. I played Bella, who is 16, who meets her dad. So it's the backstory, and then like Piaf, actually, her mother dies at the same age as Piaf, 47 as well.
Have you only just realised that? Have you just gone, oh, this is my casting?
I realised. I think I did them back to back. I was like, oh my God, I'm playing 47-year-olds who die from alcoholism.
Yeah.
Is how she died, and she went nutty and went into a madhouse. So it's a great role, to play all the ages and all the different sort of, walks of life. And
I know something I wanted to ask you. So obviously knowing who your mother is, etc. So where does Ruffelle come from?
From my dad.
Oh, your father was Ruffelle.
My dad, but it sounds really exotic, doesn't it? But it's not.
Name.
It comes from Essex.
Does it?
Yeah.
Ruffelle.
I think it was originally there were S's instead of F's.
Ruffelle.
Maybe. Yeah.
Or Russell.
Yeah,
I think not
I think it. I actually think it was Russell, but it's got changed over the years.
Yeah. Probably down to some sort of printing press thing or something, or somebody writing something wrong in a ledger, and lo and behold, the family name changes. Yeah. I'm glad we've established that. 'Cause I wonder how many people think, oh, it's just a stage name. No, it's your dad's name.
No, but a lot of people think it's a stage name, and I think. Actually, I do like it now, but there was a time when I didn't like it. I was like, why would I call myself that?
Oh, I love
because people call me Ruffelle.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, and I used to hate that, but now I actually quite like it. It's quite cute.
Is Miss Ruffelle in?
Yeah.
Because there's also, because of course you're Ruffelle, but of course some of your children will be Caird.
Yeah.
But of course some of them will be Young.
No, none of them are Young.
They're all Ruffelle.
Young. My mum made up that name.
Did she?
Yeah. Yeah, because everyone used to call her drama club was called Young'uns, and everyone used to call her Mrs. Young'un.
No.
Yeah, because they didn't know her name. It's
That's
Mrs. Young'un around.
Hysterical.
Yeah, so now she became Sylvia Young.
I do,
She's got a stage name, not us.
So right, we need to, I love her. Do you know what I would love to do? If I'll ask you, I would love to do an episode with your mum actually. Because my God,
she's got some amazing stories. Oh, please do that. Yeah. She's got an amazing stories, and also, to be honest, her whole life is interesting. I keep saying to her, please write about your life, because there's so many stories.
Why isn't
back
she
to her
written
grandma
a book?
and
she needs to write a book.
Really needs to,
and not just for those of us who had just loved the stories, but also for educators.
Yeah, I think it's really important that she gets her life story out there.
Right. So next time you speak to her, first things first, she's got to do the Show People podcast. Second thing, Mum, where's the bloody book? We're waiting for it.
This is West End producer, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with the sumptuous, the savoury, and the slightly sugary Andrew Keates. Dear.
You got to play Queenie in The Wild Party by LaChiusa.
Yes.
At the Other Palace, at a time actually where, I love the Other Palace. I absolutely adore the venue, but at a real time where it was really starting to establish itself.
It was the first show since Andrew owned the theatre, basically.
How lovely to be working with Andrew once again in his new ventures.
Yeah, he came a lot actually to see the show, which was really nice.
What did you love about The Wild Party? Was it because it's a role you always wanted to do? I understand.
What happened was, the story is that Matt Ryan played me the music and said, "You are Queenie," he said to me, and that was about 10 years before.
Yeah.
And I loved the music so much. We put some of the songs in my first one-woman show, Beneath the Dress. Mm-hmm. And then I did that show it was probably about 6 years ago in New York. And Maury Yeston, who wrote Nine, who has been an absolutely great supporter of mine, because I recorded some of his songs and we stayed in contact. He always comes to my show and supports me. And I just said, "You don't happen to know Michael John LaChiusa, do you?" And he went, "Yeah, he was one of my students."
Oh, my word.
And it was that day of the show, and he said, "I'll ask him and see if he's around to come." And I thought, he's not going to come. Like half an hour before the show, I heard he was coming. Oh. I couldn't believe it. And so I remember I just got all his words wrong because I knew he'd be listening to me. And then after the show, he just came up to me and said, "You're my sister." Oh. And then I said, "Would you be around for coffee this week at all?" And he said, "Of course," and we arranged to meet coffee in a really sort of trashy diner. And he turns up with a massive box of chocolates for me. It was so sweet. And then I just said, "Look, tell me about The Wild Party. I'd love to play Queenie. And, is it ever going to happen in London? And am I too old?"
Yeah.
And he was, "The part's yours."
Oh.
And he said, "The rights are yours, everything." He said, "Just sort it out, get it on. You have my blessing." And so I then put the team together. Yeah. So I've never done that before in my life. So I put the team together. And also, and I said to him, "Am I too old to play Queenie?" And he said, "Queenie was a blonde and her age stood still."
Yeah. There you go.
Said, "You're perfect."
Sounds a bit like Ruffelle to me. No, I'll ask you something, because we were having a natter.
Yeah.
About that show, because you also had a bit of a tough time with some of the internet forums.
Yeah, yeah. When it was first announced, yeah. You know what? And because when it's first announced, you kind of like, you're looking online to see what everyone's reaction is of, this show coming to London that hasn't been. Yeah, and I stumbled upon a few nasty comments, which I shouldn't read, and I usually don't. You know, I'm not one who wants to read bad things about me.
Sure.
But you know, sometimes you can't help yourself. And it was amazing how many people say things that they really don't know anything about. Like, I got told that all my face plastic surgery that I had wasn't going to make me look young enough to play the role, and that Queenie should be 16 or something like that, or 18, which was completely wrong for the role. Anyway, she's supposed to be, Michael John said in her 40s. I was actually already in my 50s, but it's meant to be like mid 40s, you know, partying too hard, realizing that she's got to stop. But by the way, I haven't got any plastic surgery or Botox in my face. But I just I found it really odd that people would say stuff like that they clearly don't know about, but also it's like slander.
Yeah,
but they don't have their name, but they hide under these pseudonyms, and
trolls.
And I was kind of thinking that actually it should be illegal to say anything bad unless you actually say who you are.
Yeah.
Say, I'm going to say something bad, so this is my name.
Yeah.
Rather than like doing a fake name and then being, you know, really quite rude.
I think that upsets me a little as your friend and also as an admirer of your work. Like, and I know you haven't had any plastic surgery on your face, but even if you
on my arse,
just on your
just kidding.
You and me both. Yeah, I've had lots of work done to my arse. I can tell you that. Even if you had plastic surgery, who gives a shit? So you know, it's not that you have, but like other people, it's their body.
No, I want to do it. I'm just too scared. Maybe one day I will.
Frances has not had plastic surgery of her face
yet.
But then on top of that, also, like, why with the ageism? Like, I don't like. You don't look old. I said to you earlier and previously, like you're a pretty gorgeous, pretty, vibrant, woman. But also, like, I'm far more interested in the attitude of the character.
Yeah,
which
I do think people have to be cast correctly, though.
Yeah.
But Michael John gave me his blessing, and also, you know, her age stood still, and you know, but people that don't know what they're talking about and being bitchy like that, I find like, haven't they got anything better to do with their lives?
No, they haven't. The only thing they've got better to do is tap into internet forums under an anonymous pseudonym.
Yeah, hiding like cowards.
Whereas you're in the middle of a stage doing extraordinary dance numbers in a spotlight. I'll let the listeners be the judge of what's harder than that.
I love doing the show. It was great fun. Yeah, and actually it's blooming hard, you know, at my age to dance like that, you know. So I was really thrilled that I managed to do it, especially as I'd had my ACL replaced. You know, the footballer's injury. I had that 4 years ago. I snapped my ACL. But so I had all these injuries, so I was really proud of myself to get through the dancing and everything, and you know, get back to normal.
Especially as a lady of your age with all that plastic surgery.
With all that plastic surgery on my face.
It's up there.
Hi, this is David Bedella, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates.
Now, here's a fun thing, which, again, listeners might not realise. You've been associated with quite a few cult television and film titles.
Yes.
So now I can't... What was the title that you said earlier, which I just can't pronounce?
Oh, Patang Yang Kipperbang.
Yeah, Patang Yang Kipperbang, which for some people I know is their... Well, tell me the story about you were telling me earlier about when you last got a flight to New York.
Oh, yeah. And the flight attendant, he didn't say, "Oh, Miss Ruffelle, I love you from Les Mis," which is what I normally get, which is nice. And, you know, I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
You know, it's lovely to
acknowledgement. Yeah,
of course. But he said, "Oh, you're in my family's favourite movie, Patang Yang Kipperbang."
and what is it? Because I've not seen it. So
it's a lovely, lovely movie. It was written by Jack Rosenthal.
Okay.
Who's written a lot of amazing things, very funny, and I think it might have been even like from his life, actually. And it's about first love, but I play the naughty girl. Of course.
And and we shouldn't forget Birds of a Feather, which you did 3 episodes.
Yes, I played Naomi, Dorian's lost daughter.
I was Leslie Joseph's daughter. You played Leslie Joseph. That's hysterical.
It was so funny, and they put a wig on me in it as well, so I had the same hair and everything and the high heels, and I had to learn how to do her walk.
Can I ask, because every time I've heard somebody talk about Leslie Joseph and working with her.
She always works all the time. I don't know how she does it. She's amazing. Yeah, she works really, really hard, always working. Another person like that actually is Anita Dobson. The two of those, they're always working. Not happy if they're not working,
I mean, were there any really great inspirational women that you were working with, or indeed men, that have really shaped the artists that you've become from working with them?
I think I learned things from everyone. As I said earlier, Tracy Bennett, I learned from her. Patti LuPone, I learned from her. I always watch and learn, even now.
I understand I'm still very close to Patti.
Yeah, I'm really close to Patti. She's amazing. She's lovely. So she's been really supportive to me and come to my shows and introduced me to people. Betty Buckley has been amazing to me.
Donna McKechnie, of course, you work with.
Who I love. I wasn't quite the oldest in the Wild Party. Donna was.
Donna McKechnie's a little bit older than
you. But we became very, very close, me and Donna. I
imagine the stories you must have shared must have been extraordinary.
Yeah, the whole dressing room. Yeah. The girly dressing room, that was fun.
And what is it about these legends? What is it about these especially these amazing American women?
They just work so much harder than we do, the Brits. And they're all, Patty's still like doing her singing lessons, and her singing teacher was backstage when I went to see Patti do a show. And, literally she works really hard. I don't know if you've read or heard her autobiography, but I got that on Audible.
I'm going to download it tonight. I promise you.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
But I do think that, me having all those children and not really working as hard, I didn't work as hard when I had the children, that's for sure. I think it probably set me back, and now I'm sort of catching up again, which I love. I love the challenge. So I'm really working hard to sort of get back out there. But those people have never stopped. They really they live for it.
Hi, this is Annette Badland, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates.
We've spoken about theatre and we've discussed all the various roles you've played, but let us not forget as well that there was the Eurovision, which I wasn't going to go into. I wasn't going to go too much into, because I know, like whenever I hear Tim MacArthur talk about you, it's with Francis Ruffelle of Eurovision fame, and I'm sort of like,
I don't mind about it. I used to mind, but now I really like it.
I might, but also because how many millions of people watch Eurovision?
Yeah, I have no idea, but of course, lots and lots.
We're talking million.
Yeah.
And how did that come about? How did people go, I know, Francis Ruffelle, Eurovision? Like, it wouldn't be my first
No, because
leap.
Michael Ball had done it a couple of years before.
One step at a time.
Yeah, and then Sonia, I think she was before me, or I can't remember who was before. But so Don Black suggested me, and I said no, because I was like in my 20s. I thought I was too cool, to do the Eurovision.
Yeah.
And so I said no. And then they said, will you just come for a meeting? And they got Don in and everything. And Don was like, you'd be Britain's sweetheart if you did this. And I was like, really? Oh, that's a nice idea. Of course, I wasn't. But anyway, it was actually quite a good fun time. And I did all 8 songs. So I even had my own little parking space at the BBC.
Did you?
Yeah, I loved it.
Like the proper television centre?
Yeah, they all took, the TV centre. And Terry Wogan, he was funny. And we had a great time. And we spent a week in Ireland doing the competition. And actually, it was one of the best things in my life.
With the Show People podcast, we've had a few people connect with Eurovision. We've had Liam Tamney, bless him, he was down to the final 6 to be put forward for Eurovision. Alexis Jarrett, who comes in, he was similar. But there's all sorts of musical theatre people that are in Eurovision. Cliff Richard, obviously did Time, obviously did his stuff.
I keep meeting people that have done it as well. So
have you become a little bit of a Eurovision, for the Eurovision aficionados out there, like for the young artists, do they genuinely remember all this kind of stuff?
They really do remember it. It's amazing. But I actually did have an amazing song, and nothing to do with me. You know, I didn't write the song, but the song was really quite amazing.
The reason I mentioned Eurovision is, as a recording artist, there is just such an amazing body of work out there, which we could talk about probably as much as when we spoke about all of your theatre credits.
Yeah.
One thing I am going to suggest to every listener out there, I don't know if it's available on iTunes, so correct me if it is or not, but it certainly is available on Dress Circle. Go and buy Fragile, which is one of your really early albums. I just
you don't
love
have to,
it.
honestly, you don't have to buy it. I don't mind. Just go and listen to it on Spotify. It's on all those free things. Yeah. All my albums are on all those Spotify and those sort of things.
I didn't know it was on there.
Yeah, I'm totally up for you hearing it free. You know, download it, stream it, whatever. I just want it to be out there. I mean, Fragile was my first album.
Yeah, I love it.
And I wrote half of it. And also I had the most incredible producers. I had Guy Chambers, who did Robbie Williams. In fact, Guy, I asked Guy to do a demo for me. And it was so brilliant that he ended up producing my album.
And you've got an upcoming album, which I'm rather excited
Yes,
about.
this is going to be my 6th album.
Yeah.
Solo album. Yeah, that's right. But I'm working on a completely different, you know, out of my comfort zone, actually, but in a great way. I'm working with Mike Thorne, who produced Soft Cell and Mark Almond and lots of big 80s, 90s hits. And he actually also discovered the Sex Pistols.
Did he?
Yeah, he used to work for the record company. He brought the Sex Pistols to their first record label.
That's such a cool fact.
Yeah, he's great. And so, you know, we're stretching each other, really. I'm very showbiz. He's very much electronic music. You know, he creates all this incredible beats and sounds.
And you're going to have like a fusion of this.
Yes. So it's really like scary, but it's great at the same time. So I wrote a new song, which was kind of like a jazz song. And then he sort of put his slant onto it. And actually, I'm really loving it.
Really?
But it's not easy, you know, coming up with the, you know, sometimes I'm coming up with some great songs. I think they're great. And then we put them into the studio and they're not quite working. We're working on how to make it interesting. Everything we're doing, we want to make as interesting as possible without being too up our own bums.
Yeah.
But we're loving it. We're having a good time. And so far the album's called Faster, which is where the show title is coming from at the moment, which, you know, all could change. And we're doing 2 covers. So everything's all new apart from 2 covers. One is Nimaki Tapar, actually, but we're doing in English. So I've sung so many French things. I've decided I'm going to actually stick to the English for that. And it's so massively beaty and heavy.
Well, when it's out, please can you make sure with one of the original songs, please can you make sure you send it to me and we'll play it on the Show People podcast.
Yeah, I could send you it anyway, even if it's not out. I'd love you to hear one of my originals.
I would love
especially
to hear
that one, you know, the sort of, if you think about the jazz song and then think about Mike's background and then the clashing of the two.
That would be
it's
such
so
a treat.
cool. And then also the other cover we're doing is actually the Soft Cell Mark Almond, funny enough. We're doing Tainted Love, which has been covered quite a lot.
Sure.
And originally we thought, well, because Mike's got the original Bink Bink, you know, Bink Bink in his you know, he created that sound and he's got it in his studio. And so we had the Bink Bink on it, and then eventually we decided to take the Bink Bink off.
Oh, but at least it was there. It had its little time.
It had its moment. We might put it on right at the end of the track, but yeah. So that's good fun, and it's really theatrical. Tainted Love is so theatrical. Yeah. This is probably the most theatrical album I've done so far.
That's a big statement. I reckon the most theatrical album yet.
Yes, it is the most theatrical album. But yeah, it's going down a different route.
This is Liam Tamney, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates. I see you shiver with anticipation.
Very good. Well, it has now come to one of my little favourite parts of the show, which is my favourite things. Francis Ruffelle, I'm going to strand you on tour in Whitley Bay. I want to know what things you would need to survive. I'm going to ask you what your favourite, or what album you would need, what film, what TV box set, what book, what play, what musical, and your luxury item. What would be the music that you would listen to?
I think it would be my K.D. Lang album.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's ingenue is really like a favourite. You know, when you just buy it again, and then you buy it again on iTunes. You know.
What about a film? What would be the film that would be your sort of comfort?
Comfort? Well, do you know what? This probably seems pathetic, but I love Forrest Gump.
No, it's a
I
wonderful
can watch it over and over again, and I love that film. Because I got terrible memory for movies, I can watch them again and again like they're new anyway. But I think on a more show people level, my favourite film is Cabaret with Liza Minnelli.
I mean, it's just a masterpiece, isn't it?
Yeah.
Joel Grey. Have you come across... Now you're in New York.
Joel Grey, yeah. Well, actually, I know Joel Grey because I used to be in the same workout class with him in LA.
What?
I used to go to this really, really Hollywood workout class. I lived in LA.
And Joel Grey used to do it?
Joel Grey was there, Jennifer Grey, Julia Roberts was in the class, Kylie Minogue was in the class once.
It was the weirdest bloody...
Oh, it was amazing. It was called Marty and Henry Studio, and we used to do step class and body power workout.
Right.
And actually, and also my boyfriend Craig Bierko was also in that class, and we actually met then.
Right.
But I don't remember meeting him.
You're terrible.
I know.
I just like the idea of Joel Grey doing body power class.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's just...
Everyone went.
And so you take Cabaret. What about a TV box set? Any television
Well,
show?
I'm going to say Unreal because that's the show my boyfriend's in. So
what is Unreal?
that.
I don't know what Unreal is.
Unreal it's absolutely brilliant. It's a dark drama, not really that funny, a bit of comedy, probably, mainly with my boyfriend causing the comedy. And it's a drama about The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. Do you know about those shows?
Oh, the sort of reality TV shows where like a millionaire guy will come in and all the girls are trying to make him fall in love.
Yeah. So it was written by someone who worked on those shows. So a lot of, I imagine truthful things, and it's very dark what they make them do. And so this is a drama about that.
Where can people, is it a Netflix thing?
It is in the States, it's on Hulu, but I think here it's on Amazon,
Amazon Prime.
I think so.
I'll have to check
Unreal, yeah. It's really addictive. There's 4 seasons.
And what about, now I know you said you're not a big reader, but what would be the book, and it could be read to you by anybody?
My favourite book is Jane Eyre.
Yeah.
That's really my favourite. I love good old-fashioned stories.
Yeah. And how about the play?
Well, I'm obviously going to say Piaf.
It's
by Pam Gems, and I think she was a great writer.
Yeah.
She wrote a lot of plays for women.
Mm-hmm. And the musical. What will be the musical? Les Misérables.
I do think Les Misérables is, a brilliant musical, and it's because of the story. It's so important to have a good story in a musical. But I'm going to go for the old favourite that probably everyone does. Actually, there's 2 old favourites. One is West Side Story because it's such a fabulous story again, and it moves me. But I really adore Guys and Dolls, the writing of Guys and Dolls.
And lastly, what would be your luxury item?
My luxury item would be, if I really was stuck, I'd have to have chocolate. Is that a luxury?
You can have a constant supply of chocolate. Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, this is John Barr, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates.
Frances Ruffelle, you must answer all of the questions I'm about to ask you as quickly as possible within 5 minutes. Now, you are allowed 3 passes, but please remember to use them wisely, as during this time, I'm going to ask you some of the most obscure, outrageous, and frankly bizarre questions that you've ever been asked.
Okay.
Frances Ruffelle, let's play Funny 5 Minutes. Frances Ruffelle, what is the worst note you've ever been given by a director?
Move there.
What is your worst habit?
Eating with my hands.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
What is your favourite season?
Spring. Love the flowers.
Musically, what is your guilty pleasure?
Bridget Bardot.
What is your greatest fear?
Drowning.
Really?
Yeah, I can't believe I just said that.
Drowning's scary.
Yeah.
Where is the strangest place you've ever had to have a wee?
I did it in the street when I was filming in Greece once.
Lovely. What is the worst practical joke that has ever been played on you?
I can't remember one. Pass.
No. Oh, we've actually got a pass. I love my buzz button. It's my favourite buzz. Who would play you in a movie of your life?
Well, I would think it would have to be my daughter Eliza, but she probably wouldn't want to do it, so Samantha Parks.
Oh, I see what you did. That was clever. I got that. Clever. Who is the most famous person you've ever met? That's tricky. Because you've met them all.
I've met lots, but I met Michael Douglas, and I was very thrilled to meet him.
Yeah. Michael Douglas is pretty good.
Yeah.
Thinking about other people who are like...
you know who I met last week? Like 3 days ago. No, that was amazing. Henry Winkler.
Oh my God.
The Fonz.
Have you met Sondheim? That's what I've always wanted to ask.
Yes, I have met Sondheim. He was amazing too. I've met loads of people. I'm so lucky.
So you're going with Sondheim or the Fonz?
The
Fonz. What would your last meal be? Cheese. What is your favourite dinosaur?
I don't know the names of any of them, so I'm going to have to pass again.
Second pass. If you were a superhero, what would your superpower be?
Like Harry, moving objects.
What, like... Oh, I thought you meant like blood coming out the eyes and things. Okay,
no, moving objects from afar.
Telekinesis.
Is that what it's called?
That's what it's called.
Okay.
Are you able to show me the last picture you took on your phone?
Am I able to? Yeah.
Go on then.
Hey. Is it worried about this now? No, I didn't take that. That was sent to me.
Was that just a picture of a drag queen?
Yeah, but that wasn't me taking it.
The last picture.
When people send you things on WhatsApp, that's the last picture I took on my phone.
Oh, it's a picture of a white cab with a Union Jack on it. There you go. As everyone has on their phone. I love this new question. Sum Donald Trump up in one word.
Cunt. Am I allowed to say that?
You can. It's a podcast. Say anything you like.
Oh, okay.
And I totally agree. So, Trump's a cunt. Do you believe in ghosts?
No.
If you could jump into a swimming pool full of anything, what would it be?
I have to be quite boring and say it would have to be champagne.
And if Badlands said champagne, you're in good company.
Oh, good.
If you were to order a pizza, what would your order be?
This is really boring, but I like goat's cheese and spinach. But once I was in Cuba, and they said, we've got some bad news and good news. The bad news is we've run out of tomatoes for the pizza, but the good news is we've got cauliflower.
What? Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
100 duck-sized horses.
And the reason for that?
Because I think I'd be scared of the big one, but I might not be as scared as,
What is your favourite Disney film?
Bambi.
Oh, I got told I looked a bit like Bambi once.
Really?
Yeah, I've got big brown eyes.
You have got big brown eyes.
Yeah.
I just love Bambi because Bambi sort of bounds around and, it's clumsy.
And it is the relationship.
I understand that.
Yeah. Well, sadly, that noise tells me that is the end of the show. But before we go, I am going to squeeze in just a few parish notices. Thank you so much to Curtis Moore, Thomas Miser and Joshua Scher for sending in their fantastic song from Triangle, a new musical. Please do check out their awesome work. But, ladies and gentlemen, please go mad for the one, the only, Frances Ruffelle!
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. I've had so much fun with you.
Yeah, it was really good fun.
Can't we just stay here all night now and order and takeaway?
I feel like I've got more to talk about.
Part 2 coming 2019. Maybe we can do it from New York. Maybe it could be the first international one.
Let's do New York, and we can get some nice people on
Joel Grey, after he's finished his spinning class. Frances, how can people keep up to date with all that you are up to?
Well, I guess there's always the Facebook page for Frances Ruffelle, and obviously my website is usually updated, I think. I think those two, really.
And what's your handle on Twitter?
Frances Ruffelle. I'm really boring.
No, it's perfect.
It's Frances Ruffelle on Instagram, on everything.
Get following Frances on all of those platforms. Especially now I've just discovered some of the bizarre pictures that she keeps on her phone.
Don't forget you can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Keates, follow the show at ShowPeopleUK, and use hashtag ShowPeoplePodcast. You can send me an email to info@arian-productions.com or like the Show People page at facebook.com/Show People People podcast, where you can chat about any of the issues raised in today's show, as well as chat with other listeners. This podcast is produced by Arian Productions Limited, dedicated to giving opportunities to theatre makers. If you enjoyed the show, take 2 minutes. Just leave us a little review on iTunes or whatever client you listen to us on. That really helps us reach more listeners. And don't forget, you can also pick up some Show People podcast merchandise at arian-productions.com/shop, or you can donate to the show at arian-productions.com/donate. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and don't forget to support the show. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, Show People, just be better. And I know you haven't had any plastic surgery on your face, but even if you
just
had,
on my arse,
just on your
no, just kidding.
You and me both. Yeah, I've had lots of work done to my arse. I can tell you that. No, there's